The day Adrian Cade banned all women from Cade Industries, the city froze harder than the streets outside his glass tower. Snow pressed against the windows like a warning, but Adrian didn't look out. He signed the order with a steady hand, jaw tight, eyes empty. To the world, he was the cold CEO, a man forged by betrayal, a man who believed emotions were liabilities and women were reminders of everything he had lost. No one in the boardroom dared to speak. They had seen what happened to those who tried to thaw him. Outside, the wind howled through narrow alleys, carrying the cries of the forgotten. In one such alley, a young woman knelt in the snow, her fingers red and trembling as she cupped a shivering bundle of fur. The stray cat's eyes were glazed with fear and cold, its body barely moving. The woman took off her scarf without hesitation, wrapping the cat against her chest. Snow soaked through her coat, but she smiled softly, whispering promises to a creature that trusted her with its last breath. Her name was Mira Hale, and she had no idea she was about to change a man who believed he was beyond saving. Adrian's hatred was not born from arrogance. It was born from a hospital room years ago, where his mother lay weak and fading, abandoned by a system and by people who had sworn loyalty. His father had left early, and the women who later entered Adrian's life seemed to leave scars rather than comfort. The worst was his former fiancée, who leaked company secrets and nearly destroyed everything he built. When his mother died, Adrian buried his grief under ice and swore never again. He rose fast, ruthless and brilliant, building an empire with walls so high no warmth could climb them. The ban was his final declaration of control. The backlash came immediately. Media storms, protests, lawsuits threatened. Adrian ignored them all. He worked longer hours, slept less, and grew colder by the day. At night, the snow kept falling, quiet and relentless, as if mirroring his isolation. Mira, meanwhile, lived a small life with large kindness. She worked temporary jobs, cleaned offices at night, and volunteered at shelters when she could. She believed the world survived not on power, but on small mercies repeated every day. After saving the cat, she took it to a nearby clinic, paying with money meant for her rent. The vet said the cat would live. Mira cried with relief, then laughed at herself for crying over a stray when her own life felt so uncertain. Fate crossed their paths a week later. Mira had been hired as part of a third-party cleaning crew contracted before the ban. It was a loophole, one no one noticed until she was already inside Cade Tower, pushing a cart across marble floors before dawn. She moved quietly, avoiding attention, doing her work with care. On the 32nd floor, she stopped when she saw a framed photo knocked sideways on a desk. She straightened it gently. Adrian saw her through the glass wall of his office. His first instinct was fury, security, termination. But something made him pause. She wasn't sneaking. She wasn't defiant. She was careful, almost reverent, as if the space mattered. When she bent down, her scarf slipped open, revealing scratches on her hands, healing but raw. He remembered the alley, though he didn't know why, the image of something small being protected from the cold. He stepped out. The air between them felt sharp. "You're not supposed to be here," Adrian said. Mira turned, startled, then composed. "I'm sorry, sir. I was hired through the cleaning service. If it's a problem, I'll leave." Her voice wasn't defensive. It was calm, respectful, honest. He looked at her, really looked. There was tiredness in her eyes, but also warmth. It unsettled him. "Finish this floor and go," he said coldly. She nodded. "Thank you." Days passed, and Adrian found himself watching for her without admitting it. She never lingered, never spoke unless spoken to. Once, he saw her kneeling again, this time beside a broken office plant, carefully propping its stem and watering it. The sight irritated him more than any protest ever had. Then the challenges came crashing down. A major investor pulled out, citing the ban. Legal pressure mounted. Employees grew fearful. Adrian's nights filled with memories he had sealed away. One evening, after a brutal meeting, he walked out into the snow without a coat, needing the sting. Near the steps of his building, he saw a familiar figure crouched, shielding something from the wind. Mira was there again. The same cat, now healthier, wriggled in her arms. "You," Adrian said, disbelief cutting through the cold. She looked up, surprised. "Sir, I didn't know this was your building." The cat meowed, loud and demanding. Adrian stared at it, then at her. "You saved it," he said slowly. "Yes," she replied. "No one else stopped." Something cracked. Adrian felt anger rise, not at her, but at himself. At the years he had walked past pain, convinced it made him strong. "Why?" he asked. "It's just a cat." Mira stood, snow brushing from her knees. "Because the cold doesn't care who you are. Someone has to." They stood in silence, snow falling between them like confessions. For the first time in years, Adrian felt ashamed. Their conversations began after that, short at first, guarded. She spoke of small things, of shelters and second chances. He spoke of numbers and strategies, but slowly, fragments of his past slipped out. He expected judgment. He found understanding instead. The greatest challenge came when the board forced an ultimatum: reverse the ban or lose the company. Adrian locked himself in his office, torn between pride and survival. Mira, finishing her shift, hesitated outside his door, then knocked. "You don't have to carry everything alone," she said when he opened it. "Strength isn't about freezing the world out. It's about standing in the cold for someone else." He looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman in the snow, the hands willing to bleed for something fragile. He realized he had fallen for her not despite her softness, but because of it. The next morning, Adrian called a press conference. He ended the ban publicly, took responsibility, and announced new policies focused on inclusion and compassion. The world reacted with shock, then cautious hope. Inside, employees cried. Some smiled. The tower felt warmer. Adrian found Mira later that day, waiting by the entrance with the cat in her arms. "I don't deserve you," he said quietly. She smiled. "No one deserves kindness. They choose it." Snow fell again that night, but this time it felt different. Not like a wall, but like a beginning. The cold CEO learned that hearts are not meant to be fortresses. And the girl who saved a stray cat in the snow reminded a city that even in the deepest winter, warmth survives where someone is brave enough to care. The morning after the press conference, K-Day Tower woke up to a different kind of silence. It was no longer the fearful quiet of people walking on glass, but a cautious stillness, like the pause after a storm when no one is sure if it has truly passed. Adrian stood by his office window, watching employees arrive. Women walked through the doors again, some confident, some hesitant, all carrying stories he had once refused to see. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his decisions, not as power, but as responsibility. Change, he quickly learned, was harder than control. Emails flooded in. Some praised his courage, others accused him of weakness. The board remained divided, and investors demanded proof that compassion would not cost them profit. Adrian worked relentlessly, but something inside him had shifted. He listened more. He questioned his instincts, and when anger rose, he remembered a woman kneeling in the snow, choosing kindness when the world offered none. Mira, meanwhile, struggled with a different reality. The sudden attention frightened her. People at the building recognized her now, whispering about the girl who changed the CEO. She didn't want to be a symbol. She just wanted to work, to help, to live quietly. One evening after her shift, she tried to slip out unnoticed, but Adrian stopped her near the elevator. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice softer than it used to be. She hesitated, then nodded. They sat in a small cafe across the street, far from glass walls and power. Adrian spoke honestly, something that still felt unfamiliar. He told her about the pressure, the doubt, the fear that he had made the right moral choice but the wrong strategic one. Mira listened without interrupting, her hands wrapped around a warm cup, eyes steady. "You're afraid of losing everything," she said gently. "But you already lived like you had nothing to lose. That's why you were so cold." Her words struck deeper than any boardroom argument. The challenges did not wait. A former executive filed a lawsuit claiming discrimination damages from the previous ban. Media outlets twisted the story, painting Adrian as unstable. Protests returned, this time split between anger and support. One night, after a brutal interview, Adrian felt the old instinct return, the desire to shut down, to freeze again. He pushed Mira away without meaning to. "I don't need saving," he snapped during an argument. "I did this myself." Mira went quiet, not angry, but hurt. "I never tried to save you," she said. "I just stood where it was cold." She walked away, leaving Adrian alone with the echo of his own words. That night, the snow fell harder than it had all winter. Adrian didn't sleep. He replayed every moment, every choice, until he understood the truth he had been avoiding. Letting people close meant risking pain, but pushing them away guaranteed emptiness. The next day, he went somewhere he had never gone before, a small animal shelter on the edge of the city. He found Mira there, cleaning cages, the same stray cat curled peacefully nearby. "I was wrong," Adrian said simply. "I don't know how to be this new version of myself yet, but I don't want to do it alone." Mira looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Learning takes time. Even ice melts slowly. Together they faced the next battle. Adrian restructured the company, appointing diverse leadership, including women who had once feared his name. Profits dipped briefly, then stabilized. Innovation followed. Trust returned. The lawsuit was settled, not with threats, but with accountability. Months passed. Winter loosened its grip on the city. Snow turned to rain, rain to sunlight. On a quiet evening, Adrian and Mira stood outside the tower again. This time, the doors behind them were open, light spilling onto the street. "I used to think strength meant never bending," Adrian said. "Now I know it means knowing when to kneel." Mira smiled, the cat weaving around their feet, "and knowing when to stand." The city moved on, but the story lingered. Not of a powerful man who ruled with fear, but of a broken one who chose to change. And of a woman whose simple act of kindness proved that even the coldest hearts can be warmed if someone is brave enough to stay.